Jennifer, as we have seen over the past couple of years, Lydions have successfully demonstrated their ability to solve these critical problems in several sectors beyond just healthcare. Perhaps you wanted to give us a glimpse into some of these very, very interesting use cases that Lydions are addressing.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about these, Arka, because this is actually where the rubber hits the road and we see Lydions in the market solving real world business problems. So since our first foray with the outcomes-based contracts adjudication application, that was our first major commercial application. And since then, we've moved on to handling distributed contracting in a number of sectors, as well as additional types of implementations and applications in business use cases across a number of industries. So I'm going to touch on four sectors that we're already in market with and some of those use cases, as well as some of the financial metrics that we have for those. And we'll get a little bit more into the business model and how these partnerships work later in the presentation. So as far as the outcomes-based drug pricing contract adjudication platform, we've already talked about that use case a bunch, so I don't need to explain how it works. But we are looking at, in 2024, that generating for our customers 200 million in revenue that's enabled by Lydions. That translates into 694 million of total value in Lydions created. By 2030, that will grow to 6.4 billion of total value in Lydions created by that platform application alone. Moving on to the agriculture sector, we haven't talked that much about this use case, but we have an agricultural traceability product in the market. This business case is tracking and tracing cotton and rubber crop data to verify that these products are grown to regenerative agriculture standards. This allows consumer brands, so major brands in the US and elsewhere, to market the products coming out of these agricultural inputs as regenerative labeled, which increases their value. These brands save significantly compared to third-party certification systems. And at the same time, thousands of smallholder farmers, so these are small farmers in mostly underserved markets, can earn income from the data generated by their crops and farms and be incentivized to participate. From a financial perspective, 14 million of customer revenue will be enabled by Lydions in 2024. This results in 257 million total value in Lydions in 2024 with this business case. And by 2030, this grows to 1.6 billion in revenue through Lydions and 5.8 billion total revenue in Lydions at the time. Now, moving on to the gaming sector, Deco has developed some really high-power partnerships to develop a platform enabling gamers to manufacture, own, and trade in-game assets in real-world markets. The debut game from this effort is codenamed Chaos Engine. It will be in previews later this year. I'm happy to take questions about that as well. I know it's a hot topic, an area of a lot of interest for many of the audience of this call. And some of the well-known industry names associated with this effort are Richard Garfield and Staff Elias, who developed Magic: The Gathering, novelist and composer Peter Arulian, game industry veterans John Bangert, Chris Ryal, Jennifer Yee on the Deco team. And in this sector, the first, which also I'll mention, it's the first consumer-oriented application of Lydions to come to market, which is exciting for us. By 2024, there will be 48 million of revenue unlocked by Lydions to these customers. That translates into 519 million of TVL. By 2030, we see growth to 3.2 billion of revenue and 5.2 billion of TVL. And then the last in-market application I'm going to talk about right now before going into some of the pipeline would be climate tech and really a fintech climate use case. So in the climate tech sector, Lydion apps are being used to enable enterprises and investors to build, manage, and optimize investment portfolios of climate-related assets while also spurring the generation of carbon credits and other high-demand climate finance products. So 100 million in revenue in this sector will be enabled by Lydions in 2024. That translates into the same number, 100 million in total value in Lydions. But we see some really major growth coming down the pike in that sector. By 2030, that revenue grows to 2.4 billion enabled for customers, and TVL grows to 4 billion. So as I mentioned, we have numerous additional use cases. We're going to talk about the business model and the partnerships model there. We don't develop all of these in-house, and we have a wide partnership network and developer community building all of these. But I think the more interesting thing to talk about really quickly, so although these business cases seem to come from really different problems and cover different sectors, of course, we've really found that there are some core patterns or types of business problems that Lydions are particularly good and particularly efficient at solving.